Central Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming on YouTube.
It is the Morning Sports Desk on a Tuesday, the 21st of January. This is powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. No Corey Tackman. We don't have Zeke today. It's just me, CJ, flying solo, and we got a lot to talk about with the local sports scene. First, let's start off on the broadcast schedule with the matchup we have tonight at WadenaRadio.com, the Superstation K106 mobile app, or online, those two places, or you can listen to it on your radio at 105.9 FM, the Superstation K106, a Park Region Conference boys basketball matchup. We have Menahga at Sebeka, and 7:15 pregame, 7:30 start. And taking a look at both teams in this matchup, the Sebeka Trojans are 4-8 on the campaign, and they have some wins throughout the season against teams like LaPorte, Ogilvie, Battle Lake, and they did beat Menahga in a matchup just a week ago. So a pretty quick turnaround for both of these teams to play each other. And they recently had a game against Pillager where they lost 73-45. That was their last one. They had a game yesterday, get postponed due to the cold against Long Prairie Gray Eagle. Yeah, that seems like a pretty good idea. For the Menahga Braves, they are 1-13 on the campaign. They got a 64-55 win over Bertha Hewitt on December 9th. And currently they're trying to snap a losing streak right now of about 10 games and try and get back in that win column. And a good rivalry with the, I don't quite know what they call it. Maybe there's a name for it. Red River rivalry. Maybe it's the UNC rivalry. Maybe there's something. But Menahga and Sebeka, of course, just two close schools, two schools that see a lot of each other. Good rivalry there between those two communities. That should be a fun one tonight at the Sebeka gym. And this is just a good opportunity with both of these teams playing each other. Why don't we take a look at the Park Region Conference standings? You know what I mean? Let's see what's going on here in the PRC. So if you look right now at the standings, currently the Henning Hornets are in first place. They are 6-0 in Park Region Conference play, 13-2 overall. Pillager is at 6-1, 8-4 overall. Wadena Deer Creek 5-2, 5-7 overall. Ferndale 3-3, 6-7. New York Mills 3-3. They are also 3-7. Bertha Hewitt is 1-5. They are 3-7 on the year. Sebeka 1-6. They're 4-8 overall. And in the conference, Menahga also 1-6, 1-13 overall. So an opportunity for the winner tonight between Sebeka and Menahga to leapfrog each other in the Park Region Conference standings, and something that I'm sure they both would like to do, especially, again, against a rival. And again, these two teams play each other so closely. So it'll be interesting to see what Coach Kapan of Menahga and what Coach Lilquist of Sebeka can do to kind of counteract each other and kind of, again, I don't think there's a ton of coaching cat and mouse back and forth, but I think it really just in the players, you've seen it so recently. You've seen not just the styles and the schemes, but just the players. You remember, oh yeah, that number 24 for whatever team. Yeah, I remember they dribble this way. They shoot like that. They like to do this. It's so recently in your head. And for a high school team that plays a ton of games throughout a season, like both of these schools do, having that recency bias, I just wonder how much it'll factor tonight. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be a big factor. It'll be fun to figure out either way, though, for these teams. Taking a look, though, at some section standings. Let's go to Section 8AA, where the Menahga Braves are at, and same with the Wadena Deer Creek Wolverines, Perham Yellow Jackets, Park Rapids Area Panthers, and things like that. Menahga currently towards the bottom of that section. They are 10 QRF points behind Holly. That would be the next closest team if they want to make a jump, and that's currently kind of where the Braves are sitting at. If we want to go in 5A, for boys basketball, let's see where the Sebeka Trojans are at in the 5A West standings. And they're kind of in that middle of the pack right now. Nevis, of course, right at the top. Walker, Hackensack, Akeley has a nice squad this year. Pine River Bacchus is solid. Browerville Eagle Valley is good as well. And then you have Verndale, Bertha Hewitt, Sebeka, Long Prairie, Gray Eagle, and LaPorte in the other half of that section. And again, for Sebeka, they are just 3 QRF points behind Bertha Hewitt. That's the next closest team. And Bertha Hewitt does have the tiebreaker over Sebeka, but if the Trojans want to get closer to leapfrogging and jumping up a spot, that would be the path to do it. Getting a double A win against Menahga would certainly help out that QRF score there. Not quite playoff time yet, but as we look at some of these schedules, I mean, look at the Trojans schedule. We're halfway through this thing. So not that section standings right now are the be-all, end-all, but things have kind of taken shape. You kind of understand, okay, this is out of maybe the realm of possibility, but maybe we could get here. You kind of, it doesn't become solidified where you're going to be yet, but you can start to see both of the ends of the candle kind of start to pinpoint themselves, and you just get closer to figuring out, okay, what seed could we potentially get? Who could we potentially play? And things like that. But of course, a lot of regular season left to figure things out. And we got a lot of regular season to cover things as well on our Hubbard Radio-Wadena stations. Of course, both these teams tonight on the Superstation K106, 105.9 FM, Superstation K106 mobile app, WadenaRadio.com, and all the like. You can find our full broadcast schedule online at WadenaRadio.com. Hey, in some other local sports news, we have something we should talk about with the thing that's going on here in I don't want to say commitments, but commitments. Hey, what's going on? Everybody's making their commitments now. You kind of know where people are going. And we have another one here in Staples Motley. Livy Lorber just committed to playing volleyball at the University of Minnesota Morris. As you can see, the Staples Motley School District put a post on Facebook earlier this morning, and obviously has the family history with some of the Staples names there, and Livy Lorber doing a good volleyball career here. Last year had a great season. I know I got to call Staples Motley's matchup against Wadena Deer Creek. They played a great game, and she definitely stood out in that matchup and was a big reason why the Cardinals won, and the big reason why they've had some success this season and the last few seasons. So she made that commitment, going to go to Minnesota Morris to play next season. And congratulations to her. Congratulations to the Staples Motley volleyball team as well on their season, and the Staples Motley School. I've said this with Corey. I'll say it here on my own. It's always fun to get to see these kids make their college commitments and get to decide where they're going to go. Yeah, it kind of used to back in the day just get reserved for D1 athletes and people who are going to the big stages, but there is no reason why you can't celebrate community college, NAIA to D3, D2, D1. It doesn't matter. You get to play collegiately. Have a little bit of fun making that announcement. I love that the schools get to make these announcements as well and let the communities kind of celebrate as well with the family. So that's awesome. Congratulations to Livy Lorber on her commitment to Minnesota Morris. We will have more information up online at WadenaRadio.com or by checking out the Sports Cow page on Facebook. Can I get a moo? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's just me. Moo. All right. But speaking of some other things that we should be checking out and talking about, let's talk a little bit about Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. So with Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade, not only are they powering the morning sports desk, but man, oh man, they have a lot of great deals on Monday. If you didn't get out to brave the cold and get out to Wadena, not saying you were foolish, but you maybe feel a little foolish now, because half price play all day Mondays at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. Half price play day in the arcade. Play all your favorite games for half price on that day only. You got 36 games to choose from. 9 p.m. is typically when that happens. But again, there's lots to do at Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Bring the kids in, go play some games. While they're doing that, you and your significant other, maybe your parents, your family, doesn't matter. You can enjoy the great buffet, chicken, mashed potatoes, salad bar. Of course, we've got to talk about the pizza, my favorite, the Bronco. A lot of stuff going on. It's about lunchtime. I'm getting pretty hungry talking about this. I might have to swing over pretty quickly. Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade, great sponsors of the morning sports desk, powering us here. Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Go check them out and go get some pizza. Go play in the FunZone arcade. You will not regret it. All right. Well, now that we have that taken care of here, now that we have all of our local sports done, it's time to do a vibe check. We haven't done this in a while, and it feels kind of weird without Corey here, but you know what? We're going to do it. Well, let's do a little quick vibe check.
Vibes? You know about vibes?
Vibe check. Vibe check.
Put out the vibe.
Yeah, if you were watching on YouTube, you could see me awkwardly white guy dance to that vibe check sounder. But let's vibe check some teams. Let's first start with the Minnesota Timberwolves. They looked great playing against one of the better teams in the NBA without Dante DiVincenzo, who hurt his big toe. They called it his great toe, a grade 3 great toe sprain, which I had to read that on the radio this morning. It just sounds ridiculous, but it's a serious injury because he's out indefinitely, speculating 2 to 6 months potentially, which could be a season ender, which is not great because DiVincenzo finally started to feel like he was getting comfortable in Minnesota and finding his stride and doing all that stuff. 3-point shot got significantly better over the last month. So that's a bummer. On the bright side, Rob Dillingham, the Wolves' first-round draft pick, he's back from the G League. He was there on a rehab stint. He'd been hurt for a little bit. So he's finally healthy and ready to roll, which is a great sign for the Timberwolves. Unfortunately, they play Memphis, and when the Wolves and the Grizzlies get together, you see a lot of entertaining basketball, but I've heard it called low IQ basketball, maybe bozo ball, maybe just a bunch of meat-headed basketball plays one after another. But it is entertaining to watch these two teams go at it. And you thought the Wolves would finally be able to close out a game against the Memphis Grizzlies. And like we learned in the 2022 playoffs, like we learned throughout the 2023 season and the last season as well, the Grizzlies were hurt, so it didn't really matter. But with Ja Morant back and fully healthy, that Grizzlies team knows how to close. The Wolves played the stupidest basketball in the final 2 minutes against the Memphis Grizzlies. They had an 80% win probability, up by 5 with 4 minutes to go. They lost. And that's a bummer. And again, it just feels like the vibes are off. You know what I mean?
Well, the vibes are wrong.
The vibes are wrong. I want to vibe with the Wolves, but they're wrong. The vibes are wrong.
Well, the vibes are wrong.
They're off. And until they figure that out, we talked about till Christmas, give this team time to figure it out. We're getting close to the All-Star break, and this team is still just fumbling around at 500, and it may just be what this team is.
Well, the vibes are wrong.
And that's unfortunate. That's pretty much all I have for now. Rob Dillingham deserves some extra minutes. I'm okay, though, with Finch bringing him along slowly. Conley's shown his age a little bit. Gobert has been kind of his usual Gobert self. Ant has been good, but of course with some faults, and pretty much they're lacking the ability to score, which, again, I believe the Towns trade, I don't have as big of a gripe with it, maybe as some people do, but the one thing you can say about Karl Anthony Towns and what he did for the Wolves last year, he was their secondary scorer. Cat and Ant were both the scorers. And with just Ant, Naz has had a okay season, but not the season he had last year. And also, Nickeil Alexander-Walker's played well. But again, they don't have a consistent secondary scorer. And in crunch time, you saw it yesterday, teams just double team Ant. And Julius Randle is not a bad player, but he is clearly not Karl Anthony Towns offensively, which we all knew. But there's just he's just clearly a step below Cat in talent level. And while we talked about the Wolves being deeper, and I think they are deeper than they were a year ago, they lost the high-end talent. And not that you need high-end talent to win all the time, but you need scoring. And the Wolves play great defense, but the high-end scoring is just not there, and that's been a problem for this team. Hey, the Wild, they won yesterday 3-1 against the Avs, which is fun to see. And this is a team that's banged up. They had the great start. The whole roster's hurt. Zeke knows more about the Wild's injury struggles than I do. We talked about it last week on the show. The vibes aren't wrong with that team because they're all hurt, but
I want to vibe.
I want to tell you it's all going to be okay with the Wild, but I don't know, man. They're so banged up. It's so hard to tell. Minnesota Vikings. Look,
Well, the vibes are wrong.
I want to talk offseason. I want to talk Darnold, McCarthy. Where do the Vikings go? Who do they sign in free agency? Who do they draft? But right now, I'm still just so bitter. Why am I so bitter? One, because I wouldn't be opposed to bringing Darnold back, but I'm also so bitter at Sam Darnold for playing so poorly, and just the whole, the coaching staff, the rest of the team. There was more than Darnold, but just the whole Vikings team letting me down with that Lions game and how bad they played, and with how bad they played in the playoffs in that first round against the Rams, because the Lions got upset, and we knew they were kind of, a paper lion, let's say, because the Commanders ran up and down the field on them and they won, and the Lions are done, which does make me feel pretty great because the Lions had to walk off the field like this.
Pointing toward the heavens, we can only ask or wonder that he is asking some departed relative for forgiveness for this atrocious performance.
It was fun hate watching the Lions. It really is. But the thing is, this was the Vikings shot as well to do something in the playoffs, because the Lions are still going to be good. That roster is still talented, despite and the Packers, by the way, have a young roster. They're not going anywhere. But for the Lions, they are losing both of their coordinators. Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator, is expected to become the head coach of the New York Jets. You have Ben Johnson, who has accepted the Chicago Bears offer to become their head coach. And I'm sure more coaches from that coaching staff are going to leave. So that is going to hurt the Lions, because they would not be there without both of those guys. But that roster is still pretty good. They're still going to be competitive, even if Dan Campbell, their head coach, is maybe being carried by those guys. So that's still an issue. So and by the way, Ben Johnson is going to be the head coach of the Bears. The Bears had a good roster, or at least a roster that was not as bad as their record indicates. That was coaching, draining away wins, and then also the team giving up once they fired the head coach and he got post-Thanksgiving, and the team collectively deciding to mail it in. So the Bears are going to be better. The Packers aren't going away, and neither are the Lions. This was kind of your year. You won 14 games. You had a chance for the 1 seed. You had a chance to run the NFC. And you faltered down the stretch. So as much as I want to be optimistic about the Vikings, and don't get me wrong, I will be in a couple weeks, it really just felt like they missed an opportunity. So
Well, the vibes are wrong.
let me just watch the NFL playoffs in peace now that the Packers and the Lions are gone. We're going to get another Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl, aren't we? Ugh. All right, let's wrap things up talking about the Minnesota Twins. Nothing much to report there. No real injuries, no real signings, no real ownership changes, anything. The one little interesting bit of news came from Dan Hayes of The Athletic over the weekend, and that basically just kind of confirmed everything we knew about the ownership chase, which is that the winner of the ownership sweepstakes for the Twins will be selected on opening day. The sale will become official in the late spring, early summer. So basically, if you were hoping the Twins were going to get a new owner and then they were going to get a bunch of money to go sign a free agent at the last minute, it's not quite going to happen. Although, if the Twins do get an owner that's willing to raise payroll immediately, you could see the Twins be competitive at the trade deadline next year if they're in first place or in playoff position, which would be interesting. And I think I'd welcome that more than the Twins signing a free agent at the 11th hour, if that makes sense. But the other thing is, Justin Ishbia has become the real hot name for the Twins. No guarantee that that is going to happen, so I am not believing that Justin Ishbia is going to be the owner of the Minnesota Twins until I actually see it. But once again, his name popped up and basically said, here's what the article boiled down to. There's double-digit people who are interested in buying the Twins, but if somebody, and here's the way it kind of looks, but if somebody really wants to put themselves out in front, we could get it done faster, which, again, feels like the Twin sources are getting out there and they're letting the public know, and mainly people who are reading the papers know, wink, wink, potential owners. If you want to buy the team, here's the amount of people that are interested, so pony up. And this is also an extra wink, wink at Justin Ishbia, who is potentially looking to buy the Twins and has kind of been the hot name, the big spender. Him and his brother own the Phoenix Suns, and they also own a soccer team in Nashville, and they own part of the White Sox. We talked about that last week. But this feels like he's got crazy, stupid money where he could just throw down an offer on the table, and the Twins and the Pohlads go, done, team sold. And I wonder if that's them going, wink, wink, a lot of buyers, but wink, wink, if you give us this big check, Like, we're ready. If you just increase your offer, we could get it done today and we could get this thing moving along. So I wonder if that's the biggest thing, if the Twins are putting out, the Pohlad family's putting out this information. And it's not, people do this all the time, so it's not anything super underhanded, but it's just a little bit of, hey, you know what? We want you to buy this team. There's a lot of people interested, but, it's like going to the car dealership, right? Oh, I don't know. You gave us your offer, but here's our sticker price. And gosh darn it, we had a bunch of other families looking at it. So, this offer is on the table, but, I see your offer and we'll think about it. But, gosh darn it, this sticker price, and we could get it done today if you just take that. Like that's essentially what they're saying. So this is negotiations going back and forth. But with all of this, again, I think Ishbia would be the best potential option out of the ones we saw. But again, I can't guarantee anything. So it's a lot of wish casting. So this falls in the category of
I want to vibe.
So I have 2 I want to vibes and 2 the vibes are off. So that's great. Go for men's basketball.
Well, the vibes are wrong.
I know that they just won last week, but they're going to lose to Iowa probably. So,
Well, the vibes are wrong.
So yeah, that's just a lot of go for women's basketball. How about that?
It's the vibe I love.
Go for men's and women's hockey.
It's the vibe I love.
Bemidji State men's hockey.
Well, the vibes are wrong.
Yeah, the vibes are wrong. Nah, I made myself sad again. It's 20 some degrees below zero outside. I think I'm going to get out of here. This has been the Morning Sports Desk powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. I'm CJ Baumgartner. I'll see you tomorrow, and I think we'll get Zeke on by then.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.